Howdy, y'all. My name is Alex Dang. I'm a writer, poet from Portland, Oregon, and if it's okay with y'all, I'm here to do some poems for you guys. Cool. But before I begin my poetry, I have to ask all of y'all first, who here knows what slam poetry is on a scale of like, yes, I know what it is, Alex. I kind of know what it is, Alex. Alex, I have no idea what it is. Who's high flyers? All right, we got some good people. Who's kind of wobbly hands? All right, we got some wobbly hands. That's cool, that's cool. Who's shrug emoji? Who's just like, Alex, I don't know what poetry is. All right, don't worry. I don't know what poetry is either, but don't worry, I'll teach you. Basically, we all know that poetry has been designed to be performed, to be sung ever since the Greeks invented poetry. And now, slam poetry is kind of like, well, let me put it this way. In the 1980s, a horrible construction worker named Mark Smith, and when we hear Mark Smith, even though he technically invented poetry slam, we all yell, so what? Because we don't care about Mark Smith. So, it was invented in the 1980s by a construction worker named Mark Smith. Exactly, we don't care about Mark Smith, but what we do care about is Patricia Smith. Patricia Smith is a local Chicago poet who brought poetry slam to the level of what we understand it today, and poetry slam is given back. It's back and forth. So if I say something that you I don't know, agree with or something, like if I said there should be at least one class every day, every week, that should be outside. Yeah, class outside, yeah. Or if I were to say something, so like, you know, you can agree with that, you can snap, you can rub your hands, you can even audibly, you know, shout out if you want to. You know, the more energy you give me, the more energy I give back to you. And if I were to say something like, our generation is the most selfish, entitled, and narcissistic of all the generations ever. Okay. Now, even if that was 100% true, so what? We are the millennials and the world can bow down to all the dope things that we do. This is #NoFilter. This is GPOY. This is every Selfie Sunday, Transformation Tuesday, and Forget You Friday we've been too busy to address. Are we selfish because we are too concerned with carving a spot for us in history? Too busy burning the candle at every end due to our insatiable blaze for more? This fire we cradle like Prometheus did, a gift for the rest of mankind. Funny how being selfish looks so much like survival. Looks like extracurriculars, part-time jobs, and college graduations planned like a perfect wedding. Look like the fish in the barrel shooting back. Look like loans that Atlas couldn't shoulder. Look like all-nighters because we cannot afford sleep. We are entitled. We expected a home to move into and instead got a house buckling in the floodwaters. We are beginning to repair every problem left behind for us, including the kitchen sink. We, fixers of the previous tenants because the landlord doesn't do anything. Of course we feel entitled. Look at what the generations did before us. We still consider the fists of Mike Tyson knocking down giants. We feel the rattle Nirvana crooned and are warmed by York Three's company's home. We learn from the best. Why settle when you can grow cities and monuments out of the old? They taught us that, told us to connect with the world, and now we do it faster at 120 megabits per second. The self-obsessed generation. What, like it's bad that we want to remember the rest of our lives? That deep inside this unrelenting precariousness of tomorrow, we still want to look back on today, on yesterday, and think, God damn, look at how far we have gotten. We are not narcissistic. We just like looking at ourselves. And our friends, and their everyday, because we've made every part of life extraordinary to capture. So yes, we are going to Instagram that meal. And yeah, we're going to live tweet a conversation or two. Even my White House has like a Twitter account. We are all members of this dubstep choir. Remixes exist because there are some songs that are so good they need to be played again and again and again. Are their memories of caffeine so much different from ours? All-nighters really not have changed. Are you really going to place higher severity of your game of Monopoly over our game of Smash Bros. Melee? Let's be real, both destroys friendships. Nothing will be the same afterwards. All I'm saying is that the revolution has never, ever, ever been televised, and yet it has still found a way to be told. This time, it's being told through our voices. Sit down. Listen to us. Thanks. So that's what a poem looks like. You want me to do some more? Yes. All right. When I start my poetry performances, I usually start from the very beginning, and the beginning of me is my parents, because they made me or whatever, and my parents, so my mom is Chinese, grew up in Vietnam, my dad is Vietnamese, grew up in Vietnam, and they actually escaped Vietnam around the late 80s, late 70s, early 80s, and they escaped to America, and they actually met in Virginia. And they're commonly referred to as boat people. They are immigrants, and they have taught me everything about everything in my entire life. And my mom has always been teaching me things. She's always been a teacher ever since I was younger. She was always a preschool teacher, and she always taught me things. And one of the things she taught me was that everybody that I will meet will have a superpower. But the origin story of how that person became super is not exactly what made them super. Let me explain. I was born and bore witness to her immense strength. As far as superheroes go, my mom is the most OP. With a frame of 4 foot 10 inches, my mother, about yay high, not too trans, redefines comic book badassery. Super strength. With one hand, she has carried 4 sons, tossed their sorry selves through college, and with the other, made my father a mountain of a man, a pebble, smooth into the shape of her palm. Intelligence, such gems like do it right once or do it wrong 3 times. Don't be sorry, just don't do it again. And of course, the world's favorite, of course I know everything. I'm your mom. Telepathy. All the times that I thought I was being sneaky in high school, but she was just letting me get away with it. Clairvoyance. She can see ghosts too. She can still see her father, like when she was 7, still hanging in the kitchen after he found out the communists were going to take him away. Still drifting in her mind back and forth, a pendulum ticking away her innocence. She hears ghosts too. She still hears the cries of my sister, still feels her small form, all bundle of light, all star glow, gone as soon as she's shown in this world. Resilience. All she could do was watch her mother's wedding ring spirit away into the captain's pocket, jingling with all the other boat people's tickets out of the only home that they have ever known. Watch countries deny refugees of safety, of humanity, of existence. Watch days crawl in a re-education camp where she learned nothing but adversity, immortality. She should have died. Become a statistic about Vietnamese immigrants who did not make it, a prisoner of Viet Cong, and another shouting point for American protesters to end the war that she simply called childhood, and yet she still stands as a lesson to prove how incredible we all can be. She has never let her tragedy trump her triumph, never accepted that this was all there was, never waited for a miracle to grant the miracle that I call mom. She only stitched up my cape and told me, fly. I once did that poem at a competition. It was like a semifinal, and I got the highest score of the night, and I was really excited, and I called my mom, and I was like, Mom, I did your poem, and I won, and she said, you're welcome. So that's my mom. She's a real cool lady, ever since I was younger, she always told me about her escape story. She always told us every year, me and my 3 older brothers, about how she came to America. And this idea of the whole theme of the world on a world on the margins. But when I really think about the stories that my parents are telling me, I'm really trying to listen to what my mom is trying to say, which she's obviously telling me to never forget where I come from. But even though her Vietnam escape story takes like 12 hours to tell, my dad also has an escape story, but his is 1 sentence long. I snuck onto a fishing boat. And then what? Like my uncle's is I stole a helicopter, and I'm like, then what? You flew into America? Like that's not how things work, dude. And I remember always being very curious about why my dad never told me his story. And as I got older, I realized it's because he wasn't really concerned about where we came from. He was always so focused on giving us a tomorrow and a tomorrow and a tomorrow that when I wanted to write a poem for him, I wanted to kind of honor that way that he looks at the world. Because when my dad got to this country, well, when he got to America, he saw all of these magnificent metal beasts roam the streets, each stronger, more glitter than the last. He said, "Son, America loves cars, like really loves cars." So I decided to learn everything about them. Someone will always be needed for repairs. Even back then, my dad was thinking about job security. My dad and I, we don't talk much. We say a total of 13 words when we drive home, and then we let the hum of the pavement fill in the rest. My dad likes cars because they are easier than people. People don't have a check engine light, don't have a dashboard, don't tell you if something is wrong. But cars are always honest. My dad is always honest. Nah, he doesn't talk much, but he lets his motor oil hand speak for him. Growing up, my brothers and I never learned much about cars. 4 sons of a mechanic, and not one of us could replace a blown tire. My dad just never taught us. Said he would be around forever to fix all of our cars. Plus, we'd be college men. We'd be doing more important things with our hands. My dad never talks about love, but he always shows it. So he teaches me how to drive. He tells me to listen to the car. Cars always tell you what is wrong, but only if you listen, Alex. So I'm trying to listen to the car on some weird Mr. Miyagi test, and my dad says, "Hey, stop making jokes and listen." I say, "Okay." And I'm trying to listen to the car, and I hear the engine. And I hear the whir of the pistons pumping fire and gasoline as we cruise down Powell, and then I imagine the power it must take to get Metal's son and father down the boulevard. And then I hear my dad's heart. I hear this ancient machinery, all ignition and patience as I go too fast in the school zone, or I forget to turn my blinkers on. My dad laughs and tells me to check my mirrors, check my blind spots, check my weaknesses, tells me to listen. My dad has been listening his entire life, never once turned on the emergency brake, kept sugar out of his gas tank, turned the key, and carried an entire family with him, but his heart is getting weaker. Nothing lasts forever. Some things you can only prevent from breaking down further. So I try to find the owner's manual to my father, try to reassemble the engine of his childhood to see what steered him here, but his make is of another generation, something I can't understand, something I don't find instructions to, something his dashboard refuses to show me. There's so much spots, there's so much mileage in my father's bones. Spots in the road never ventured because he did not take us there. He told us dead end, wrong way, turn around. I don't know what he is hiding in his workshop. What corroded secrets he harbors like rusted ghosts in a junkyard. All I know is I want my hands to look like they've been dipped in oil, to look like they've done something important, like a mechanic, like my dad. I want to be like my dad, y'all. Someone who always carries you from the back seat into your bed, who lets you sit on his lap and steer the wheel, who always reminds you to buckle your seatbelt. Dad, I know you won't ever tell me what is wrong, but it's okay. We'll just drive instead. I promise. I'm listening. Ooh, okay. I think I'm gonna do 2 more poems for y'all. And then we're gonna go to lunch, and then there's gonna be a nice little Q&A, and then I'll probably see you guys on the boat. But 2 more poems? Cool. Alright, who here? So, I like writing about my life. I like writing about myself. I like trying to figure out who I am. And I remember when I came back from college, graduating, I was cleaning out my childhood bedroom, and then I found my Game Boy, so then I stopped cleaning and I started playing Pokemon, and I was just surrounded by all these childhood memories, and I was thinking about my dad and my mom and my family and stuff and how I was raised, and then I just was playing Pokemon, and then I kept thinking, how come Ash doesn't have a dad? And I got really weird about it, y'all, because like, why doesn't Ash have a dad? And I got really panicky about this, so I wrote a poem called Letters to My Father by Ash Ketchum. Dear Dad, I left home today to become the very best. Is that why you're still out there? Dear Dad, my metapod evolved. He started off so small, but today he sprouted rainbows from his back and protected me from danger. One day, I'll show you how strong I've gotten. Dear Dad, Mom doesn't talk about you much, but I think it's because you're so cool and great and awesome that she doesn't want me to get nervous. I just don't get why she hides your photos, though. Dear Dad, I haven't been home in months, and I'm starting to miss it. How do you stay away for so long? Dear Dad, I just left Lavender Town, and everything was soaked in death and ghosts and purple. Was that your favorite color? I think I saw you there. Dear Dad, there's this girl that I like, but I'm not sure if I like her. How did you know you like Mom? Dear Dad, I lost to someone so strong, but today I came back and I won. I didn't run away. So why did you? Dear Dad, Mom called me today and asked when I was coming home, and I told her I didn't know. Did you have the same conversation? Dear Dad, my friend said that I cry in my sleep, which is silly. I don't have sad dreams. I just dream about Mom and me and you. Dear Dad, we're playing a game where we're trying to match moves to our personality. Misty is surf. She takes us places no one else could. Brock is strength. He never lets an obstacle stand in our way. They said I was Flash because I'm always the light at the end of the tunnel. What would you be? Probably cut or fly. Dear Dad, I came home today and remembered why I wanted to leave. Dear Dad, I came home today and never wanted to leave. Dear Dad, I love you. Dear Dad, I don't care if you're not the very best. You should just come home. Dear Dad, every day I try harder and harder and harder to answer all of these unknowns that you left behind for me. Alright, y'all. We still good? We still cool?
Yeah.
One more poem? Alright, well, let me tell you a little bit about this poem. The first poem I ever wrote about being Asian. The first time I really started looking at myself and really started trying to be who I wanted to be. This poem came out because I had been writing it for 19, 20 years up until then, and then it finally all just came out, and this is a poem that has a lot of humor, a lot of anger, and a lot of pride in it, and if you know the words, sing along. So he said to me, "What kind of Asian are you?" And I said, "Well, that's kind of a loaded question, sir. What kind of Asian do you expect me to be? Because any way you slice that egg roll, I'm still pretty much whatever you want to see. I have played many a Far East stereotype. Awkward math genius, cold and calculated kung fu expert, assistant to Dr. Jones, you crazy. It's always just dependent on the circumstance. They want me to drive, how so? I can give them Tokyo Drift, Jeremy Lin, Mario Kart, Tiger Woods, and Blinker left on for about half a mile. I am the foremost expert on everything Asian. The major era in the band of the samurai, done. Confucianism versus Taoism, I'll give it to you with no slant. What's the difference between Asian stereotype 1 and 2? Well, let me tell you anything you want to know about my culture. Let me tell you, in a Mulan-esque soliloquy of me staring in the mirror asking, who is that girl that I see? Let me tell you about Jackie Chan and Bruce Lee and how they're related by blood to me, your boy. Let me tell you about being so marginalized, it's to the point of I really can't believe that's Asian. Let me tell you about derogatory terms and origins of words such as chink and gook. Let me tell you about the struggle of Asian parents not knowing the language, so we ate the clearance food because it was the cheapest. Let me tell you about the job of interpreter. When you're playing with Lego blocks, but your English is already that much better than your guardians, let me tell you about honor and dignity. Let me tell you about a society that projects us as nothing but the secondary role and never the leading man. Let me tell you all the things that you do not want to know, like how chink comes from the clanking of metal to railroad as the slaves built train tracks for this country to be connected, like how the zipper head down the street is called that because the way our heads split open when struck with assault weapons or had jeeps ran over and left marks across corpses, and someone clever thought that we were only good to unzip, like how every time you lump an Asian person together into one culture is systematically making us assimilate into an America that we thought was better than our war-torn homes, and every time you confuse me for some other nationality that I might share similar features to strips away my individuality, and I still feel the shame of being Asian, but also the heat and pious dedication of June 11th, 1963, the envy of blonde hair and blue eyes, and I still remember thinking where all the boys who looked like me on TV were. The broken words of my mother and father stage diving off my tongue, the anger I felt when those kids thought I would get them sick, and I still feel the ash of the incense burn my hands as I pray for my family, and I still remember thinking my skin was what I was worth, and I still feel the ironwork of my bones grow stronger with every train of thought that passes by, and I still feel pride, and I still feel heritage, and I still feel Chinese, and I still feel Vietnamese, and I still feel American, and I still feel. Thanks, West.